Hey everybody, welcome once again to the Wrestling Inc. podcast. I'm Glenn Rubenstein, joined as always by Raj Geary, Chris Callicutt, and today, our guest, USA Today's Josh Barnett. We're going to be talking about SmackDown Live for July 18th, 2017. Also going to be talking about Battleground, which is coming up this Sunday. Man, it's an exciting time. Raj, how you doing, man?
Good, how are you?
Doing quite well. Chris, what'd you think of last night's show?
I was slightly underwhelmed for most SmackDowns, but I thought it was a fine go-home show just to sort of cap off the storylines and prep for the pay-per-view.
And Josh, our guest today from USA Today and For the Win, what do you think of SmackDown? How was it for you last night?
I thought it was pretty good, and I agree that they got done what they needed to get done to get to Battleground. I think they added some color, especially behind the women's match and some of the other matches that didn't really have a lot of storyline build-up to them, that were just kind of matches put together. So I think they accomplished that.
I just felt, I don't know, myself personally, I thought it was kind of there for a go home show. It didn't make me excited for Sunday's pay-per-view, but we'll get to that.
Seeing the Punjabi prison, Raj, that didn't do it for you?
I mean, at least they were trying something, but I think this Orton Mahal feud has just gotten stale, and I think they need to move on from it, and it sounds like they are.
Yeah. We shall see. So Birmingham, Alabama is where SmackDown was last night. Started with the Singh brothers coming out, introducing Jinder Mahal, who did unveil the Punjabi prison structure, and really build up between him and Orton for Sunday night at Battleground. So, Josh, what have you thought of this feud and Jinder and Randy? Is it doing anything for you?
I agree that it's time for it to end. I think this provides, I think the Punjabi prison provides a nice different type approach to what they've been doing in terms of some of the other matches. I'm just not feeling sort of the "you came after my family" angle on the Orton side. I do think, though, that having Mahal win, which is what I expect in a match that's sort of ideally set up to be his specialty, will help give him a little bit of a boost that he probably needs, and help legitimize the championship run that he's had after there were some questions about why he even became the champion just 2 months ago.
Yeah, it is odd, him taking that personal angle with the whole family thing. I mean, acting like this is, Stone Cold outside Brian Pillman's house with a gun. This is not. I mean, this is pretty low stakes by comparison. Chris, how about you, man? Have you ever felt really invested in this?
I mean, I think it's given a little bit of motivation to Randy, more so than we've seen in the past few months. I mean, I think he's delivering his promos well. He's looked more motivated in the ring. I like the visual of him climbing the Punjabi prison last night. I thought that was kind of a cool thing because, that kind of has to do with the outcome of the match. So they previewed some things pretty well there, I thought. I'm going to put some Ricola and Vicks cough drops in Mahal's mailbox as soon as I can get them to him. But here's my last stipulation. We're not here to peg anybody for doing anything, right? But I dare you, just dare you, Google side effects to your voice from different supplements. Just do that for me.
Chris, Matt Morgan's going to come out of nowhere and just dispute you on this till the end of the earth.
I think the one thing, though, that was good about it was that they actually showed how you win the thing. I mean, it's been 10 years since there's been the last one, and they were able to show how the gates go up on the side of the ring and how you have to get over, and there's no doors on the outer structure. In some ways, I thought they actually did well with that, with the flag match as well, basically by saying you have to grab your own flag and run it up the ramp and put it past the finish line, because there's a whole bunch of different ways you can do flag matches. So I thought they helped to kind of explain some of these stipulation matches that you don't see every day.
Yeah,
and make sure to, if you haven't checked it out already, check out our podcast from last month with Sean Davari, who talked about the first, because he was involved with the first Punjabi prison match and how it came up and them not really knowing where they were going with it at first, and how the structure ended up being made. The great Khali being pulled at the last minute because his blood tests weren't back, and it was some interesting insight on that. But so the Punjabi prison has its own music now. Did you guys notice that?
Yeah, that was different, kind of neat, and it's actually a cool looking structure. But what I'm going to need is some nifty camera work to actually be able to see inside the Punjabi prison. Because I hope they bring back. You remember the old NXT, almost like the football field cam that they used to have on early NXT that they would go around the ring with? I almost think they need that for this match.
Right. Well, I mean, I think we saw a little bit of that because you had the cameraman inside the first structure last night, kind of shooting up at Orton, who was kind of looking down on him. I expect that might be, I expect it might be somewhat similar to a Hell in the Cell type situation in terms of where they place the cameras.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, I mean, the structure looks cool. And you know what? I feel like Orton and Mahal, their matches have been better than some of Orton's other matches lately. They haven't been blow away great or anything like that, but they've been pretty good. So I think it should be an entertaining match. I don't know if you finish with this. I wonder if you finish with the flag match. So you have because you're in Philly, they're doing the whole patriotic angle. At least with that, you have Cena going over as opposed to, Mahal beating Orton again.
But wouldn't that get Mahal the needed heat that he needs?
No, he still gets it. It's just not in the main event.
Sure, but that'll leave the bad taste in the crowd's mouth, which is almost what they want, it seems, at times.
Yeah, but I feel like when you're doing the anti-US thing, I mean, you definitely could. I just think Cena, if you want to end on a happy note, sure. Cena, his first match back, or is it? Oh no, I guess it's not his first match back. But yeah, it just it gives the pro USA ending to when they're doing that kind of a build.
Yeah, the anti-USA thing times 3. Although with the Kevin Owens AJ thing, it's been
it's been toned down.
Yeah. That's the one they showed some restraint with.
Yeah.
Well, and part of that is because they don't really need that. I mean, those guys can just go out and do it in the ring. That, I think people will be enthralled by what they see by those guys and sort of their actions in the ring. That some of the backstory part of it might be less significant in terms of motivating the crowd to get invested. Whereas I think in the other matches, you kind of need that extra stuff to get the crowd invested.
Yeah. Some people are pointing out how the 2 Punjabi prison matches so far have been awful. True, but one was Undertaker and Big Show, and the other was Great Khali and Batista, right? Was the second one? So,
I think so.
You have a good idea going in that those weren't going to be match of the year candidates.
Yeah, I mean, God, they can't close the show on Battleground with AJ versus KO, can they? I think that's going to be the hottest match.
I don't think so.
Night.
Yeah, they never do that unless you're up against a Clinton-Trump debate. They don't do that.
Oh man, so okay, we've talked about this. It happens every time, but we are going to have the New Day versus the Usos on Sunday. So what better way to keep us invested than seeing Jimmy Uso versus Kofi Kingston? Josh, what do you think of these matches? These variations when, hey, we got the tag match coming up, let's put the guys in a singles match. Hey, we got the singles matches coming up, let's put together some impromptu tag matches. Does this keep you invested, or is it just pure placeholder matches like last night?
I think I've been kind of going back and forth on whether the title change happens here or it happens at SummerSlam, whether they'd rather have the New Day as the champions going into a New York market, or whether and one of the second biggest show of the year. So my inclination though is that we're going to see another kind of goofy finish here, and we're going to get another month of sort of pushing the ball forward until the title change happens at SummerSlam. That's my guess, but. I think it potentially could be a good match, but if they're going to continue this, they have to come up with something better than just the one team walks away because they don't want to fight them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what do you do after New Day and the Usos? They have no one left with American Alpha gone, with split up. I don't know where you go, so I could see this feud even going beyond SummerSlam. I could see New Day winning it, and then Usos come back for return matches. So. People always talk about SmackDown being better than Raw, but you look at the women's division, you look at the tag team division, they're doing the same exact thing storyline wise. It's, singles matches between the teams that are feuding, and then 6-man tags, basically seeing different variations of the same guys week in, week out. So you see this, it was a blow away, it was a blow off match. I think it's clear the New Day, what I wanted to do this week is kind of keep score. We talk about WWE math, and here you had the Usos winning. So I think that means New Day's winning at the pay-per-view. So, using WWE math, the New Day is winning.
Yeah. I mean, what I love. Yeah, what I'd love to see, and I don't think it's going to happen, is that we obviously sort of have this notion of this mystery team that's going to be involved with Breezango. I'd love to see that mystery team be somebody completely unexpected, and then have them just kind of destroy Breezango and sort of push forward into a title match situation, potentially at SummerSlam. I'm trying to think if there's somebody at NXT that you could bring up in that role. I mean, the Authors of Pain still have the belts. I mean, we've seen that before, but I don't think it's them. I don't necessarily see that. Obviously, we had the horse, which may or may not mean anything, as part of the scene last night, the stuffed horse toy. So I'm trying to think if there's some, I don't know if is there some cowboy tag team from back in the day that's going to come back? Like, I was trying to figure out if there's some other team that's on the horizon that can kind of fill that gap, and nothing's coming to mind, honestly.
Oh, I think it's going to be Rowan and Harper. So.
Doggone it, Glenn, stealing my thunder. Come on, man.
I mean, you could do Authors of Pain, and they've done that before, where people come in from NXT and then drop the titles later on, because they could drop it at take over Brooklyn, and that's done. Because right now, who else do they got? I mean, you're saying Rowan and Harper, and at least they get to use them. Because other than that, the Clones, one of them is injured. The Ascension's been buried to death. And are there any other tag teams? I feel like I'm missing one.
No, I think that's
no. I don't think so, unless you count the Hype Bros.
Oh yeah, the Hype Bros.
Yeah, but that's not moving the needle at the second biggest pay-per-view of the year. So
right.
Yeah. Oh,
so
no, I mean,
that's kind of why I feel like. That's kind of why I feel like it almost has to go one more, because there's no other options.
Yeah. To keep this title on the main show of SummerSlam rather than the pre-show, New Day and Usos have to have another match. It's one way or another. But just back to your point, Glenn, on the singles leading up to the tag and vice versa. I mean, it's the easiest and laziest way to do it. But unless they actually give us a wrinkle with each of those matches to keep us interested, that would be fine. But a lot of it is very straightforward, and by the time the pay-per-view gets there, a lot of us are already tired of seeing the combination. Oh, yeah. We don't even want to see the match at that point.
Right. And you could have done an Usos promo. These guys have been on fire, since they've turned heel. I think on their promos, I think they come across as more real than a lot of the people on the roster with their promos. So you could have done that as opposed to just another singles match between them. So
yeah. Oh, hey, that rap battle on paper sounded like a disaster. In execution, that was thoroughly enjoyable.
Yeah.
Right. You almost wonder if they had to do it over again, if they would have flipped the order and put the rap battle on the go home show as opposed to some of the matches.
Yeah. I mean, that got me more interested in the feud, and this kind of deflated it a little bit.
Oh, definitely. So last night, lo and behold, all the women were backstage hanging out with Shane McMahon.
Never seen that before. Never.
So you're doing this on Raw, you're doing this on SmackDown, just clumping all the women together.
Yeah, I mean, it was an enjoyable segment, but to build that all up for Becky versus Charlotte, I thought was kind of interesting. We'll talk about that match in a moment, but first...
And real quick, Charlotte was such a superstar just a few months ago, and just seeing her now, she's just miscast as a babyface, and she's just too good for where she is right now. And they really need to, come up with a singles feud. I really think Naomi and Charlotte should be in a singles feud right now, heading into SummerSlam, and that should be the match, and not some. And they're probably going to do a multi-person match again. Or no, I guess they announced that Naomi will face the winner, right?
Yeah, I actually talked to Charlotte a couple weeks ago, and one of the things I asked her about was the fact that after doing 15 pay-per-views in a row, where it was either her and somebody else for the title, or the WrestleMania three-way, now she's in these matches with 5 and 6 people seemingly every month. And I said, what do you like better? And she said, I want to win the championship, and the only way I win the championship is in singles matches. So while I'll do whatever they ask me to do, the idea of being kind of in these multi-person matches didn't necessarily thrill her, with the notion that she wasn't able to kind of piece things together as well.
Right. It's hard to move any woman along when you're just constantly clumped up in these matches where it's hard to create an individual storyline. So anyway.
Don't you think it's kind of a weird way to use all these girls? It's almost that they're trying to use everybody else's talents to get Lana over in this situation, because they're protecting her with Tamina and everything, and she's avoiding the ring time. So it's almost like it's it's a weird situation that they're almost trying to get Lana over in this whole multi-woman thing.
And when you say protecting her with Tamina, they are literally protecting her with Tamina.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Right.
That storyline has me so nervous for where that's going.
Right. But the problem is that in some ways they're damned if they do, damned if they don't, right? Because you go over to Raw and then you get Emma tweeting about how it's her 5th anniversary with the company and she's sitting backstage and not doing anything.
Yeah.
You know, you had Nia Jax criticize creative when she wasn't, involved, and how much she loves SmackDown because everybody gets to kind of be involved every week. So at some level, you kind of either have to develop the storylines for everybody, or you have to be willing to accept the fact that the people who aren't part of the storylines are going to use their pulpit to express their displeasure.
But why not create more storylines as opposed to having just one? You know, Raw only has one women's storyline, which is all the women are, kind of in one feud. And same as SmackDown. Why not come up with some individual storylines as opposed to having to clump them all up?
Oh, I completely agree with you that there should be more storylines. And obviously with as much program as they have, they should be able to figure out ways to do that. I'm just saying that if they're going to operate it in this manner where it's either all or nothing, they have to be willing to accept the backlash from some of their own talent.
Yeah. But the thing with this all or nothing is they've been doing this forever. Before the women's revolution, that's what they were doing. Really, right now, where they are with the women, the only thing that's different from before when they were divas is that they have longer matches and are able to do more gimmick matches. But storyline wise, they're back to where they were. I mean, there was progression there with Sasha and Charlotte and their feud, and then it's kind of gone back.
And Raj Ashley Banks on the chat points out that Charlotte lost last night, so according to yours and WWE math, she wins on Sunday.
Or Becky loses. It's one of those two since it's a multiple.
Right. Exactly.
But how's that going to work at SummerSlam? Because I really do. They have Carmella do the cash in at SummerSlam against Charlotte after she wins. I mean, do you think a cash in is imminent for Carmella being the first women's Money in the Bank holder?
I don't think Carmella cashes in at SummerSlam. I think she's still got a little bit more character building to do. I don't think she cashes in until James Ellsworth comes back to help her. So I think they're going to keep building her as a single until he comes back, and then miraculously there's some continuity there. We'll see if WWE writing can pull that off, some continuity. And Ellsworth maybe helps her cash in on a downed champion, whoever that might be at the time.
I mean, I think that the SummerSlam idea is a pretty good idea. Ellsworth will be back by then.
Okay.
And
sure.
Carmella working with Charlotte, that would help her improve greatly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. But Charlotte versus Naomi at SummerSlam, I don't think is going to be a really hot match without a cash-in. But then does Carmella win? Does Carmella lose?
If they gave it a proper build, I think it could be. I mean, Naomi's the best athlete on the women's roster. Charlotte's the best wrestler. I think they could do a lot of cool things. What's going to hurt it is you don't have Charlotte as the heel. You don't really have a heel in that match. But
that's what I'm saying. I don't see the story. I think the match will be great.
Yeah, I mean, you could just make it a simple story where Charlotte's out to, she was the top woman on Raw and she wants to become the top woman on SmackDown. And, Naomi feels that she's the top one. Just make it a competitive thing as opposed to some hokey storyline.
Well, there's nothing wrong with a babyface versus a babyface match if there's, competitive nature involved. If they're interested in the championship, there's nothing wrong with a face versus face match.
Right.
Now, what I hope is that they don't do some weird schmaz where there's no winner at this match, so they turn it into a six-way at SummerSlam.
Hey,
never
say never.
I also think though that Charlotte can be a babyface with an edge because of as much work as she's done with a heel. I don't really see, Naomi's trying to, obviously last night in sort of her promo was trying to talk a little bit tougher per se, but I kind of feel like that you could do Naomi as sort of the straight babyface and Charlotte as kind of the edgier babyface. Given her background and as a heel and sort of being able to push along the fact that she obviously came up and had a massive impact where Naomi waited 7 years for her first title reign.
Yeah. I hope those LED lights are removable from the belt. That's all I'm saying. If they're going to change that title at SummerSlam. We saw last night the fallout from Jason Jordan being revealed as Kurt Angle's son on Raw. Short interview with Chad Gable. Josh, what'd you think of this? And what'd you think of that reveal on Monday at Raw, just while we have you here?
I thought at best it was silly. At worst, it was stupid. So I was not a big fan of that, but it was interesting. I was going back through some notes after it happened. You know, I had talked to both Kurt Angle and Triple H for a story we did in USA Today about the transition of amateur wrestlers into professional wrestlers. And one of the points that Paul made or Triple H made was talking a little bit about how there was some concern along the way that Jordan wasn't necessarily going to find himself as a main roster type talent because he was in developmental so long. And then Gable came along and really kind of sort of provided him a spark and really provided him with energy. And I had the chance to talk to both of them together at WrestleMania. And one of the things you notice is that I was talking to Jordan and it was kind of, you know, he was sort of the relatively flat in terms of personality. Then Gable comes over and all of a sudden Jordan just like lights up.
Yeah.
So I think they knew all along that Gable was the guy who had the potential to be the star with the Olympic pedigree and all that. And I think now they're just trying to find a way to figure out what to do with Jordan, and they figured the tie-in with Kurt Angle, given the whole is American Alpha Team angle too, was sort of the best way to do it. In hindsight, I'm not sure I wouldn't have minded seeing Dixie Carter.
You could have, you know, I just don't think Dixie Carter makes any sense as far from a one-time pop. You know what you could have done is just give me a minute on how I would have done this whole reveal.
Settle in, guys.
Settle in, guys. All right. So you could have had someone that hasn't been used on Raw lately, who's upper mid card, someone like a Luke Harper or someone like that got brought to Raw. This angle's been going on since May, so you could have done something like that. Is constantly complaining to Kurt Angle about not being on TV, so you kind of got this side storyline, you know, and then Kurt's got this, and then the reveal is Kurt comes out and says, you know, I got to come clean. The person I've been texting has been someone I've worked with in the past. And boom, you bring out Dixie Carter, right? Just a one-time pop, one-time thing. She comes out, says someone's been trying to get in touch with me regarding, you know, someone that you dated in the past. And she's, you know, she had been the one texting Kurt about this woman trying to get in touch with him, and that he has an illegitimate son. She didn't have Kurt's updated info, so she DM'd Corey Graves, who went to Kurt. Kind of ties in everything. She said she was worried about telling him because that would be a conflict of interest since he was Raw GM, and that could cost him his job. So he explained the whole, my job could be on the line, because they didn't really explain that. And then, you know, boom, Jason Jordan comes out, it's revealed, and then Luke Harper comes out and says, you guys are getting all this time for this kind of crap. You know, I'm in the back. Calls Jason Jordan a bastard. Boom, you got a, you know, Luke Harper, Jason Jordan feud. You did it. And you make it pro wrestling-ish as opposed to like a Montel segment. So
the one reason I thought it was going to be Dixie Carter when all those rumors started was to add another husk on the Vince McMahon wall of fallen rival promoters, right? Because Heyman works for him, Bischoff worked for him, and then Dixie Carter. So I thought it would just be another Vince type move to put her out there, even if it was just one time, just to again exercise or improve his dominance over the wrestling universe.
Yeah.
Now, Raj, as logical as that sounds, do you think they would have actually thought that out in that far of a scheme? Because that's a several-week layer. You just built like a 2-month storyline in 2 minutes, and that's giving them way too much credit.
Yeah, but it would have wrapped everything up. You still get the big pop with Dixie. You still get Jason Jordan being involved in the storyline, and you get a feud with someone you hadn't been using. So
let me ask you this. So based on where they are right now, where do you see them going? Who is Jason Jordan going to wrestle? Like,
I mean, everyone's kind of tied up. Maybe Goldust. I mean, I don't, you know, who else is not kind of in a feud right now?
Yeah, I do agree. I know you guys posted Jim Ross talking about how in his blog he saw that those guys could be villains pretty easily. And I'm just not sure that people are going to buy into the happy storyline of a father-son reunion. These guys are going to can easily get booed pretty quick out of the gate, I think.
No, that was what I said on Monday's podcast. I said slowly turn these guys heel, where Kurt is giving Jason Jordan all these advantages and putting him on cards, and like other wrestlers are getting ticked off because they're not getting on the card, or, you know, things like that. And you do kind of the slow, subtle build where Angle is favoring Jordan, and Jordan's getting all these opportunities, and so it's kind of a subtle heel turn at first, and it leads to them being heels because Angle is way better as a heel. His role as GM so far has been lackluster. You know, we've been saying the stuff he's been saying outside of the storyline is stuff that anyone can say. So I think it suits his talents more.
Yeah, and before we get to Gable's reaction, look at Jason Jordan, guys. Like, the guy's been in developmental for 6 years. Well, was in developmental for 5 before they got brought up.
He was on the first Full Sail NXT. The first.
Exactly. I mean, he was in FCW, you know, right before even I followed that. But, you know, he's 6'3", 240. He has the look. He has the physique, you know. But this is almost, I think, almost a sink or swim for him. If it happens, it happens. If not, it might be time to, you know, fish or cut bait.
And I think to Josh's point, I think pulling it off as a babyface is going to be tough. I mean, they didn't react big on Monday. I think they see it as kind of a downer, this storyline, and they might take it out on Jordan. But I think you go with the heel turn, and then it could work, I think.
Just spitballing here, what do you guys think about possibly bringing Shelton Benjamin back and teaming him with Jordan?
Okay. Either that or even put him with Gable. It's like a reunion.
I think Gable, because here's the problem with Gable. I just think his size is going to hurt him to where they see him as a top guy. And I think, you know, I think, yes, something with Shelton. You know, I almost think they could have done a heel stable with Gable, Jason Jordan, and Shelton, you know, on Raw. But I think Shelton being Jordan's tag partner, I think with the storyline, it's worth it to do a singles push for a while, try to make it work. And then down the road, if it doesn't work, you could do something like that.
They're really overlooking in all this, though, and they even showed this because I went and watched the interview on the network with Jordan and Angle. They're overlooking that when Angle originally was getting these texts, there was almost sinister nature to it because he was so worried. Oh, this could tarnish my legacy. Who's doing the texting? And they dropped that aspect of this. So I wonder if that's going to come back, whether it was Jordan or someone else that was trying to push this to the forefront, because I feel like that was in the buildup, but not in the payoff at all.
Yeah. Well, but that being said, I thought Gable's promo here was really weak on SmackDown.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was like kind of cringe.
Super short, too, which means that it was not going well.
I'm a big Gable fan, but this was not his best night.
No, it's unfortunate. So we'll see. It's nice to see Renee with stuff.
Right.
Josh, what do you think of the Talking Smack being dropped while we're talking about Renee?
I didn't like it because I think it robbed some of the talent of another outlet to develop their character. But I also see from the company's perspective why it was done. Because honestly, if they spend a lot of time and effort with the writers building up somebody in a certain fashion and then they go on live television and just act completely differently or just take a complete left turn, there's not necessarily any place to go with it. You know, you're sort of stuck and you have to try to reel it back in. So I could totally see from the writer's perspective as to them feeling like stuck when the talent just kind of goes off the rails in a manner that they want to develop their character if it doesn't fit in the manner in which the writers wanted to develop the character.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I really didn't even think about it that way initially.
I mean, there were some great moments, though, certainly. I mean, I think much of the Miz's rise in the last year was fueled a lot by Talking Smack, but you know, I mean, think about Alexa Bliss after she won the title, you know, crying on Talking Smack, you know, or tearing up and talking about it was the first chance for her mom to see her wrestle. That makes me like Alexa Bliss more. That's not what they want, right? I mean, there's a lot of examples like that where it feels like that the storyline and reality kind of diverged in a manner because the talent sort of did what they did on Talking Smack without necessarily it being so completely scripted.
But with the exception of Kevin Owens, isn't that what they're all doing on social media anyhow? I mean, even seeing heels and faces hanging out together, taking pictures, you know, going across Europe. I mean, kayfabe.
Yeah, Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman at the Coliseum.
Yeah, KO is the only one that maintains kayfabe on Twitter or on social.
You know, I think it is to a degree, but I also think that there's also at that point a separation You know, at the end of the day, if you got down to the legality of it, does WWE own each individual talent's Twitter feed and have control over what they say on there versus putting it on programming that they run and fund and with their subscribers who pay for it? I think that's where it, you know, if you really got down to the brass tacks of it, I think that would be the question. Yeah,
no, it's a good point, Josh. I just think, you know, to your point with some of the stuff that they said, I think it just makes them seem a little more human. It humanizes them as opposed to feeling so scripted as you see on TV, to where they don't come across as real on TV a lot of times, a lot of the guys. And someone like a Baron Corbin, like you just feel like he's reading a lot of times on SmackDown. He's getting better with that, but you just feel like he's reading. Whereas on Talking Smack, he would still use that character, but when he's talking, he still comes across as an arrogant prick, but you believe him more. You believe that's how he really is, right, as opposed to these awful lines he's sometimes given.
Right. Well, I like it. I'm just not sure the company likes it.
Right. Yeah. No, for sure.
But it's definitely going to be different going forward, and we'll see what Talking Smack after Battleground is going to be like when who's hosting that? It's going to be Renee,
Jerry Lawler,
Jerry?
And,
yeah, that'll be a different vibe.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, so we'll see. And I think Vince will be in everyone's ear telling him what to say. So we'll see.
It might be Daniel Bryan. Jerry Lawler's doing the pre-show, I think.
No, I think Jerry's doing Smack. Jerry's doing Smack. Jerry Lawler's doing Talking Smack also. I believe I saw online somewhere.
Yeah, I think I heard that as well.
I think, I remember Lawler tweeting, but I couldn't remember if he said he was doing both. But so I guess that means that Daniel Bryan's not doing it. And
I think he could have been part of the liability. I mean, I can't imagine Vince was stoked about a lot of the stuff he said. But the fans, the era that we're in, I mean, even the inside jokes about tout and stuff like that. I mean, the fans really love that. It's a payoff, right? It feels like the great thing about fandom, especially in this modern era of entertainment, is that we want to feel rewarded for being longtime fans of something. We like the inside jokes. We like the continuity and the history of things. And I think that was just another great outlet for that that's been removed now, you know? So we'll see. So last night we saw Mike Kanellis in the ring versus Sami Zayn. Josh, what do you thought of all this whole power of love thing? And how do you think this feud is working out for establishing the Kanellises, and keeping Sami Zayn's career going?
I guess I'm waiting to see what more there is to what they are. At this point, they love each other, and that's great. And they, show their affection in very public ways and hold hands and kiss and all that. I'm just trying to figure out what's next for them. I think that's the challenge. And how does this translate? I mean, we saw Maria obviously is going to be involved in matches. Based on what we saw last night. I see Kanellis and Zayn possibly being added to Battleground if it hasn't already been already. And I think the question really becomes, they've given him a template as a couple, and now I think I'm just kind of waiting and seeing at this point.
Yeah. Raj, what'd you think?
I think there's too cartoony, too hokey, too campy to be anything more than lower mid card. But if it's a way to introduce them and then down the road you tweak their characters, then you could have something. But this isn't going to get them that far. Obviously he's going to, I forget, is he wrestling at the pay-per-view?
I would assume that's got pre-show written all over it if it's not on the main card.
Well, they already announced the pre-show. It is Ty Dillinger, which that's unfortunate.
Maybe this will be the kickoff match of Battleground then.
They already did the finish here, but I just don't see much for him right now with this gimmick. I don't see it going that far. For some reason, I just think of Alberto Del Rio and the Mex America thing, where it's just like it's just something that it's some cheap heel heat, but it's not going to go far.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe this is not on there. So just the card as we have it: the Punjabi Prison match, Jinder Mahal versus Randy Orton, the Tag Team Championship match, the Usos versus the New Day, the Flag match, Cena versus Rusev, the Fatal 5-Way Women's match to determine the number one contender, the United States Championship match between AJ Styles and Kevin Owens, and the match between Shinsuke and Baron Corbin with a kickoff show match of Ty Dillinger versus Aiden English.
Right. And then whatever Breezango ends up being.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have the reveal there.
True.
So this is gonna be a stacked night. And who knows? I mean, with Shinsuke and Corbin, the way that these have gone, I could very well see, you know, some attack during the entrance or some sort of way that gets cut a little bit short. Who knows?
I actually think this is the moment where they need to do something with Shinsuke to get him reinvigorated.
Yeah.
Because when Corbin's already got the briefcase, it doesn't matter whether he wins or lose, he can still cash it in whenever he wants. And so I think this is the spot where they have to go full Nakamura in order to try to get him going, especially if we are headed to Styles Nakamura at SummerSlam.
Yeah, and that was great last night, that little exchange between AJ and Shinsuke backstage. I think very, very good impact with very little said. So maybe the reverse of that, where there was a lot said and a little less impact, John Cena's promo last night for the flag match against Rusev. The Civil
high
War.
School civics. Yeah, high school civics class.
Civil War, Pearl Harbor, 9/11, go USA. Boo,
Civil War
Bulgaria.
was an interesting topic to pick in the South. I thought, you know, like Alabama's like, woo. I'm like, guys, you didn't win. You know.
You know what it reminded me of? It's kind of like that idea. It reminded me of a scene in the movie, like where someone's in debate club and they sit there and they just give this real patriotic speech. And then after, and they're like, sir, we were debating the merits of a flat tax. I don't see what this has to do with this feud that you're in. So he was rah-rah patriotism for, you know, the U.S. flag, but I really don't get any heat between him and Rusev. This whole thing where it's, you know, the U.S. flag versus Bulgaria. It just seems this is very paint by numbers and kind of lazy.
This is the best way to ensure that John Cena doesn't get booed in Philadelphia. That's what this is.
Yeah. The big thing for me, I always feel uncomfortable when you use 9/11 in a wrestling promo, you know, and they did that. And I don't know, that just feels kind of, I don't know.
Well, if anybody's been the standard bearer for, you know, the whole patriotism, the whole politics side of the business, it's been John Cena. So if anybody's going to deliver that type of promo with those different aspects, I mean, it pretty much has to be him.
No, I'm all for him doing a patriotic promo, but
yeah. Oh, absolutely. I agree completely. It made me slightly uncomfortable, and it's just one of those slight cringe moments that, you know, you bring that type of thing and it really doesn't fit. I mean, like, we get the point that you're trying to make, but why bring this
It's
into
2017.
It, you know?
I felt like I was watching an episode of Glow on Netflix. You know, I mean, this was so throwback, generic.
I almost wonder how Rusev feels about all this, because obviously he's not winning. And, you know, they waited forever to bring him back, and he was cleared, and then they waited some more, and then there was that sort of really odd thing that was cut short where he was only coming to SmackDown if he got a title match, and then now here he is basically in a feud from 2015 that we saw a whole bunch of iterations of stipulation matches between he and Cena. I just don't know. Maybe they just don't see any more in him other than he's the, you know, Cold War era type guy. I don't know what they do next with him.
I still say they should have brought him back as a babyface, because the guy is hilarious on Twitter. I mean, he's awesome at one-liners. You know, he's great on social media. I almost wish they would have brought him back as a babyface. And as you alluded to, Josh, when they were doing those little cell phone vignettes of him saying, I'm not coming back till I get a title shot, I want to talk.
Hello?
Chris is frozen for me.
Chris froze. I just think someone's pointing out in the chat that the anti-USA stuff is played out. This feud and the Jinder Randy Orton feud just seem like things from the 80s, and I just feel like it's not getting over big with the crowd because it just seems so been there, done that. Now with Cena, he's so great at his promos and stuff that he gets people into it. But if it was anyone else, I think it wouldn't be getting over. I just think it's been done to death. Now the stuff that people are really into right now, big time on SmackDown, is the stuff with AJ and Nakamura.
Yeah. And at least, I mean, honestly, the Cena Rusev thing makes the Jinder anti-USA thing look sophisticated by comparison. At least Jinder has some talking points.
Well, The question, though, is really this Cena Rusev thing just a very short way in order for us to get to Cena Jinder at SummerSlam to basically continue this American thing? I mean, I know I'm scheduled to talk to Jinder tomorrow, but every time I've talked to him in the past, he always talks about that he feels like he needs to beat John Cena in order to be seen as legitimate. And is that where we're going?
I think it's got to. I mean, it's clear that Cena wins here, and it seems like they just threw him in to have an opponent for Cena for this pay-per-view. They threw Rusev in there. So
bring back Rusev as Big Bartholomew from Southpaw.
Oh,
well, the other thing is that we also had this John Cena as a free agent thing. So what exactly does that mean?
I think that means that he's facing Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. But who knows?
Yeah, at least Jinder has some nuance. I mean, you listen to Jinder's promos, and I don't know about you guys, but sometimes it's like, well, he has some valid points there in his criticism of the U.S. We do preach diversity, but not always exercise tolerance, and I think there's something there. But with Rusev, I mean, it's just boo USA, Bulgaria good. I mean, it's not even that sophisticated.
It's odd because we're not at war with Bulgaria.
No,
and India is an ally.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's like when you did the anti-Canada stuff in the 90s. Like Canada's an ally. It's not like someone we're at odds with. So
it's so.
And to bring the whole circle together, Jinder is Canadian.
Yeah,
and there he is. Yeah.
So speaking of what you do with people, Josh, what do you do with Becky Lynch? She won over Charlotte. It seems like we're talking about Charlotte and Naomi in the title picture. We saw Becky last night again putting on a solid match. She got a solid portion of fandom behind her. But do you think there's a plan for her in this era of SmackDown Live and the women's division?
I don't actually think there's necessarily a plan right now, but I think, I think she would be the surprise if she turned heel. I think that might be an interesting twist for her character. I think, she's so positive, and, you saw her last night, kind of after the match talking about who's doubting me now, who's doubting me now. And I kind of feel like that maybe that might be sort of the line or sort of the tag of, everybody thinks Becky Lynch is this great, friendly, funny, high energy person, and maybe it's time for her to have an edge to that and flip over to the heel side. Of course, the challenge there would be that where does that leave you as far as baby faces among the SmackDown women?
Yeah.
Other than Naomi and I guess potentially Charlotte.
Yeah, Becky and Natalya seem like the two that don't have any momentum or trajectory right now. I mean, we got whatever's going on with Tamina and Lana.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, you could turn Natalya face too. She's a natural baby face. Becky needs a change of scenery because she's gotten stale. And so I agree with Josh. I think seeing her kind of becoming a heel would be different and something. And her and Charlotte, they're best friends. They work great together. I mean, that could be a fun feud as well.
Yeah, let's not take away from this match. This match was really good.
That was great.
I thought, originally I was calling for, like a 4 or 5 minute teaser because I wanted to see this match on pay-per-view at some point, not on a random SmackDown. I was not looking for a conclusive finish here at all. So I was hugely surprised that Becky got the clean win. But in respects to Becky, I mean, she's just kind of like the work rate babyface at this point. She works with everybody. She makes them look good. And that's kind of her role. And I don't really see a long-term plan for her right now, unfortunately.
Yeah.
All right. So based on the booking of this show, we got WWE math. We got
Charlotte's winning.
You got to add Rusev. You got to add Cena winning because Rusev got the better of him here.
Yeah.
Either Charlotte's winning or Becky's getting the pin, losing the pinfall on Sunday, and the New Day are winning.
Yeah, I could see it happening.
Jeez, at this point, I don't even have to watch. I'm taking
they didn't really tip that. They didn't really tip the hat on Jinder and Orton.
Yeah. Man, I'm curious what the watch rate's going to be on this pay-per-view. Battleground coming up. Thankfully,
I just sense no interest. Like Great Balls of Fire 2 weeks ago, there was a pretty, I mean, not even a pretty good buzz. It was a really good buzz for a B show.
Yeah, and it had the name.
That's
let me just bring this up, and this is something I've actually talked to people with the company about, is that the way this is structured, SmackDown always gets the second pay-per-view of the month, as opposed to the first pay-per-view of the month from a date standpoint, which means that SmackDown always has the smaller window to build toward the joint shows, to build toward SummerSlam, to build toward WrestleMania, to build toward Royal Rumble. And sometimes I wonder if that hurts it, because there have been cases, I mean, we're going to have 4 weeks here between this and SummerSlam, I believe. But sometimes I really do wonder if some of the story development on the SmackDown side for the bigger shows, gets hurt by the fact that it's always the second show of the month.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you look at WrestleMania, 4.5 of the 6 hours of the card were Raw matches. And I think it's going to be a very similar situation for SummerSlam. I mean, you have maybe your Nakamura Styles or something of that nature. You might have your 2 or 3 big matches, but I think maybe even like the tag team titles with New Day and Usos still being pretty popular, they might even want to put it on the pre-show just to get people to order the main show. Yeah. It's going to be kind of an odd situation. I'm interested to see how the card's laid out by brand.
And I think it's clear. I mean, it's been clear for a while that SmackDown is the B brand again. I don't know if they ever tried pushing them both as A brands. It was like for a bit there, it looked like Raw was A, SmackDown was B+, but now it's clearly the B brand as far as importance and how many important matches they get on a pay-per-view. And every time, last time they did it, eventually, they ended up merging the brands back together, and that killed a brand extension. So they're kind of repeating their same mistakes.
It's actually been interesting to see. I've been looking a lot at where geographically they're running the different shows in terms of size of markets. SmackDown has been running in a lot of 4,000 to 6,000 seat arenas, other than the pay-per-views. And Raw's not necessarily running every huge arena in every town or running every big town either. But I do think it's interesting as you look at sort of that A-B metric in terms of what towns are they putting the various live events in.
Yeah.
Very true.
We lost Glenn there.
Uh-oh.
So what was next?
I believe that was the main event. I think is all that's left. Correct? The tag main event with Owens and Corbin versus Nakamura and Styles, right?
Yeah. I guess that was it. Let me take a look here.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up as well.
Yeah. We had the Breezango sketch backstage.
Oh yeah. That's right. What did you guys think? And Josh, let me ask you this too. What have you thought about the different, parodies of classic shows that Breezango's been up to?
I actually find them to be pretty funny. I've enjoyed them, although I guess I'm probably around the age where a lot of the Miami Vice stuff resonates. You guys all look like you're way younger than me. But so I've enjoyed them because they resonate with me. I'm not sure in the 22 to 28 range they mean that much.
I don't think I'm that much younger than you because I grew up on those shows as well. And I get a kick. I've been getting a kick out of them. Sometimes I think less is more as not doing them every week, but they've taken full advantage of this and gotten themselves over. Now they're kind of seen as a comedy act. So how far that'll get them, like, does that get them to the tag team titles? I don't see that happening, but I think they've knocked this out of the park, and I thought this was another entertaining one.
Yeah, and I mean, Breeze is another guy who's been around for a long time, sat in developmental for a long time, came up, and then they didn't necessarily have a ton for him after early on being on Raw quite a bit. So, I mean, he's another guy who's kind of taken the opportunity to sort of reinvent his character a little bit and sort of take another bite at the apple on the second pass through.
In fact, Breeze, as Mike Dalton, was tagging with Jason Jordan on the first episode of NXT from a Full Sail.
There you go. Look at you.
Wow.
That's how far back they go. But no, this is great for Breeze, great for Fandango. But yeah, I hope this payoff keeps them going as opposed to just. It would be hilarious if we're the Authors of Pain, though. Like, oh my God, Authors of Pain came in on a build-up feud with Breezango, and then that's would be a hell of a way for them to enter SmackDown. But I'm thinking leaning more towards Rowan Harper being the reveal, something kind of disappointing, and I think Breezango will be the one that gets momentum out of it. Who knows?
It can't be Ascension, right?
What's that?
It can't be Ascension because They said they were just teasing. Yeah, they were teasing that they were, but they really weren't because they just wanted a spot on the card and they wanted the pay-per-view check.
It could be it really was them all along since.
Yeah. Aha.
Hey.
Which would suck, but you know, you don't. Again, outside of bringing in someone from NXT, I don't know who else you got. I mean, Rowan and Harper, you could do that, but I just think it's a step backwards for. I mean, at least they'd be on TV, which is
based on the handwriting. I saw some backwoods, marshy looking handwriting on the package that was delivered.
Marshy handwriting.
Yeah.
That's good. I like that, Chris. Yeah, we'll see what happens there. Let's talk about the main event last night. AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura versus Baron Corbin and Kevin Owens. Josh, what'd you think of the match?
I thought it was okay. I mean, I thought it was pretty good. I thought it kind of got you, you know, it was typically what they do before a pay-per-view where they take 2 singles matches and match the guys up and go from there. And I thought that's what happened.
It was indeed that. Raj, what'd you think?
It was fine. I think I've kind of seen so many variations of this. I feel like I've seen Nakamura and Owens in the ring together already about like half a dozen times, even though I know it's not quite there. So yeah, it's a match that doesn't really mean anything. It's kind of standard stuff. And you know, it was over. I think again, WWE math, AJ has beaten Kevin Owens at the pay-per-view, but it didn't get me particularly excited about the pay-per-view. I always feel like that go home angle should be something that makes you really want to tune in. And that didn't happen here.
Yeah.
No, it was a shorter, fast-paced match, which was good for the live crowd, and I enjoyed it. Uh-oh, hold on 1 second. I've got something going on my... Here we go.
Chris has
they didn't use the full half hour like they usually do for the main event. They went a little shorter this time.
Yeah.
There we go. Sorry about that, guys. I had something running in on my speakers there. But no, it was a fun main event, and here was my main point out of this whole match. Baron Corbin gets to work with those 3 guys who have been around the business for many, many years, have accomplished many, many things. So it can only be a good thing for Corbin, who's still, you know, relatively young in his career, to work with these 3 guys, even if it's just in a tag match main event. So I thought it was good for him.
Yeah, and we'll see how that plays out Sunday at Battleground. So for Go Home Show, we talked about at the beginning. This did what it had to do. As mentioned, there was no talking smack. That is what it is. And yeah, we shall see. So we covered the crowd. We covered the card. We talked about it. Any wild card predictions for Sunday night? I mean, Raj has walked us through the booking math. Pretty much, we feel like we know who's winning. Raj, you need like an abacus there and just you know, something to go back and forth.
All right. So with the math, we got what, 5 winners or 4 winners down. And so I think it's clear that Shinsuke is probably going to beat Corbin and Jinder is beating Orton.
Yeah.
Josh.
I think I agree with what you just said. I think Jinder is beating Orton. I think Cena is beating Rusev. I think there are a couple of ways they can go in the women's match. I think we could see another sort of delayed result relative to the tag team match. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that there's an obvious surprise, because honestly, if you're going to do a surprise, well, I guess if it was a surprise, it wouldn't be obvious, but if there's a surprise, I'm not sure why you don't just hold it for SummerSlam.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if there is a surprise, I think it comes out of the women's match. I think everything else is kind of by the numbers and pretty much laid out there for us. And obviously, it would be a surprise if some of the predictions we've already made don't come true. So I think if there is sort of something out of left field, it comes out of the women's match.
Yeah, and the only thing I mean, I don't see a way that Asuka gets involved here. I mean, that really would only be the potential big surprise there, I think. But, you know, I don't see how that happens here.
Yeah.
We shall see. I think I'm curbing my expectations for surprises. I think the biggest surprise will be maybe Ryan Phillippe will show up on commentary to promote Shooter back on the USA Network. Because I don't know who else we got that can make a surprise return at this point.
Yeah, they don't really pile the surprises on the B shows. So
yeah. Well, we'll find out who's behind the whole Breezango thing. So that's something. Speaking of surprising rumors today, Raj, what's this with the rumor about Brock going back to the UFC?
Yeah, there was a thing on bjpen.com. There was the Talk MMA Twitter account. They've broken some stories in the past, and they're saying that Brock Lesnar put himself back in the drug testing pool with USADA, and that he's looking to come back to MMA and fight in the on the November show at Madison Square Garden. Again, this is a rumor, but they're saying they were at himself and Paul Heyman were at UFC headquarters during International Fight Week earlier this month, and yeah, I mean that would be something. Josh, do you cover much MMA?
I don't. Obviously, our partners at MMA Junkie handle most of that, and so I'm not a huge MMA person. That would surprise me, but as long as their money's green, I guess anything's possible.
Yeah, I mean the first time surprised me, when he fought Mark Hunt. So,
and then obviously with his more lenient WWE contract, this would not be an issue. He would just need to take some time off and probably come back at Royal Rumble season, because his contract goes through at least, was it next WrestleMania, Raj?
Yeah, through April, right? Okay. And I'm sure they'll renew him. So I don't think that's the end of Brock in WWE. But yeah, I mean, he made a ton of money for that first fight, so I could see it definitely happening.
Well, I guess, right, he made a ton of money until they stripped all of it for the positive drug test, right? And then they flipped it back, right? After
they cut some of his fighter pay, but his bonuses and the pay-per-view points, he got all that. So so he got a lot from that. And Mark Hunt was very upset with how much Brock ended up making out that fight.
Because, I do remember that. Yeah.
Even after the fines.
And guys, another, I guess, rumor, unsubstantiated at this point, some possible more superstar photo leaks. Have we heard any more updates on that, Raj, at all?
I've heard that Paige is one of them again.
Man, oh man. And of course,
we got the story
about, I was about to say.
There was a Kevin Owens one, but I think that was fake. And Kevin Owens kind of blasted that. So all right. So we know these superstars are in such a public light. When are we going to learn to keep our photos, either, if you're going to do this type of thing, right, keep it backed up on something. You have to be smart about it. So, I mean, I know they've held what conferences or classes or something backstage for the talents on how to protect themselves on this, but people just have to be smarter with their content.
Yeah.
I think that goes across the board with everyone.
But being said, it's not like if there are new things coming out, it's not like it got hacked now. It's that this was all from the same round of hacks that happened with all those celebrities due to an iCloud backup vulnerability 2 or 3 years ago. And just now the hackers who traded them in private circles, now they're coming out to the public. So it's not like somebody hacked Paige's phone again. This is just more material from the original hack that we're seeing now. So that's in slight defense to the superstars.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I think that's a wrap, guys. Covered everything. Josh, thanks so much for being on the podcast today. Where can people find your stuff on the internets?
Oh, this was great. I really enjoyed it, and I appreciate talking with you guys. You can mostly find my stuff at For The Win, which is ftw.usatoday.com. And obviously, I am on Twitter at by Josh Barnett. And obviously also in USA Today, occasionally we end up on the main site. So, and we've actually got a couple of fun projects we're working on WWE related for the summer before SummerSlam that I'm really excited about, and hopefully everybody will get a chance to check those out.
Awesome, guys. Chris, Raj, thanks so much. Great to see everyone as always. I'm Glenn Rubenstein. We'll be back here Sunday night right after Battleground ends on the network. Myself, Matt Morgan, and Raj Giri talking about all the highs, all the lows, all the surprises, perhaps. So until next time, folks, I'm Glenn Rubenstein, and we'll see you back here on the Wrestling Inc. podcast. Take care.